Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to the ON1 Photo RAW 2024 A to Z event. My name is Dylan Kotecki and I'm joined by Dan Harlacher.
Hey everybody.
We're incredibly excited to showcase all of the new features and enhancements inside Photo RAW 2024. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Let's take a look.
Let's do it. So let's start off right here in the user interface. We've responded to a lot of feedback from our users. We've wanted to make Photo RAW more modern, easier to read, and less cluttered. So if you've used an earlier version, this is going to look a little bit different from what you've seen before, but don't worry about it. All the things that you're used to are still there. You can still access them. No features have been taken away. Let me give you a quick tour of what's changed. Over here on the left, you'll see the module selector for Browse and Edit. And then below, you'll see a new More button. The More button contains all the stuff that used to be over there in that right-hand bumper, which took up a lot of room. You can now access all of the edit tabs, all of the multi-image workflows, and things like export, print, and share. If you like that right-hand bumper, you can turn it back on for legacy users. You can also bring back those browse shortcuts. If you like to have the buttons to go to the desktop and places like that, you can bring those back too. So don't worry, you can really customize it and make it your own, including things like font size and colors can be adjusted now as well. But these changes are a lot more than just on the surface. They're more than skin deep. We've also made huge improvements in performance as well. Let me show you an example. Here we are inside of Browse. I'm in a folder with almost 1,000 photos, and watch how quick and easily I can scroll through all of those photos. You don't see any like thumbnails, nothing skipping at all. And if I go into detail view and I arrow through these, you'll see that same kind of experience where it changes through those photos instantly as I go through. Now that's just one of the areas of improvement. We've actually improved a lot of areas in performance. It's really fast now when you open your photos into Edit. It's up to 3 times faster. And when you catalog your photos, that could be up to 5 times faster. Updating presets in the preset browser is faster as well. You're really going to notice the difference. That's probably the number one thing we've heard from our beta users is how much they love the performance. Let me show you how fast it is to open one of those photos into Edit. So I'm just going to click on Edit and now watch how quick it takes to open. That was it. That was pretty much instantaneous. I don't get that long progress bar that it takes to open up and render that photo. Lightning fast to open the photo, lightning fast to change photos. All right, let's talk about our next big feature. And this is probably my favorite new feature in Photo RAW 2024, and that is Brilliance AI. We've all had the experience where we get back from a shoot, we download our photos, and we look at them and like, oh, well, you know, it seems so much more vivid, so much brighter when I was there.
On the back of the camera.
On the back of the camera, exactly. So one of the things that we all do is we spend a lot of time in our raw processing, adjusting those same sliders over and over again, the brightness and the contrast and the shadows and the highlights and all those things to really make the photo look like what it looked like when you were standing there. Well, Brilliance AI can do that for you automatically. It's like a fast forward button in your workflow. It does all of that for you. It gets you right up to the fun part, the stylization, going into effects. So watch, here we are. I'm just right here inside of Edit. You'll notice there's a new pane right here above tone and color called Brilliance AI. I'm just going to turn it on. And ka-chow, look at that. In just a second, it's automatically adjusted the tone, it's found the color cast, removed the color cast, but it goes beyond that. It has also identified people and a sky in the photo, and it's added local adjustments to those regions. So watch this. We'll start at the top with the amount slider. This lets me control how much of that global Brilliance AI adjustment is applied. I can go all the way down to 0, that's nothing, that's the original photo, and I can dial it up to my taste. I could even go greater than 100 if I wanted to, and have an even stronger look. Maybe I like the tone, but I don't want as much of the color. Well, I can roll this fine-tune control down, and I can control how much of the tone and how much of the color adjustment I have. So for example, if I wanted to bring this up really high, it's overdoing the color a little bit, I can back that back down, get the color I want, but
even it out a little bit.
Even up the tone even more. Now let's talk about those local adjustments. If we come down here to the local adjustments section, you'll see how it's added one for people and one for the sky. Let me show you what these do. I'm just going to grab that people slider, I'm going to move it back and forth, and you can see, let me zoom in here a little bit so it's easier for you guys to see this in action. You can see moving that people slider is adding a little bit more detail, a little bit more contrast to really make her pop out more.
Oh yeah.
And the sky control is going to darken and enhance the sky as well. So watch, if I grab the sky slider and I move it, you can see how it's darkening the sky. Now
really
we'll automatically
easy to just control those little bits of area within your scene that you want to modify independently of one another.
Yeah, and it's cool. It goes beyond just the people in the sky. It'll also automatically add it to foliage or flora and also to water if it's in the scene. We don't have any plants or water in this shot, so it doesn't add them. But it also detects lots of other regions that you can opt into manually. So let me show you. So here on this little region pop-up, On this photo, it also sees some other things like architecture. And here I am going to pick the background option. This is going to pick everything except for the person in the scene. And now it's going to add another adjustment that's going to let me control how bright or dark the background is. So you can see I can actually kind of key shift the photo. I can make it look like it was a much darker day, like she had a stronger fill light or like a flash on her.
Yeah.
Exactly, just like that. Let's look at a before and after on that. There's before, and there's after.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty
really
crazy.
Standing out.
Yeah, you can do that. Now, beyond that, all of these local adjustments are just that. If you're familiar with a local adjustment, you can go in and fine tune and adjust these. So if I click right here, so when I mouse over these, there's a little arrow. If I click on background, it's going to jump me to my local adjustments tab. And if I close this up, you'll see there's local adjustments added for all of those areas, for the background, for the sky, for the people, and I can adjust each one independently. So maybe in the background one, maybe I want to make the background a little cooler too. So I could come down here and I could grab the temperature and I could cool it off. That way I get a little bit more of that warm, cool dichotomy between my subject and the background. Makes it a great way to really get that photo back to a great starting point. One of the other things you'll probably notice when you're looking at that sky is that the highlights are handled so much better in Photo RAW 2024. We've been working on the raw processing engine to give you a greater range in the highlights and a more natural look in the highlights, especially in clouds and in water. So as you adjust those highlights down, it's going to look a lot better than it has in the past. For me, that in and of itself is worth buying the upgrade.
Oh, yeah.
The highlights are amazing. But speaking of amazing, let me show you AI Style Advisor. So Brilliance AI does a great job of getting us to the point to do the stylization, which is exciting, but it can also be a little scary too, because effects is a big beast. There's
a lot
tons of different filters,
lots
of awesome presets that come with it. Speaking of those presets, there's over 100 brand new presets that are included in here as well. But a great place to start is with the new Style Advisor. What it does is it actually looks at your photo, it understands what's in the photo, and then recommends effects based on that. So if I click on the Style Advisor, you notice there's two different categories, the ON1 team and My Style. Let's start with the ON1 team. What we've done is we've taken all the photographers working on ON1, we've taken all of our collections of all the photos that we've ever edited, and we've built an AI model that looks at the subject and then adds the kind of things that we would do. So if I click on ON1 team, you'll see it suggests all sorts of different looks that I can add to my photo. And if I just mouse over these, you can see it applied to the photo. So these gives me a whole bunch of cool options that I could try for that photo. So I just find one that I happen to like. I kind of like this one. It's a little strong, but don't worry. When I click on it, there'll be a fade slider right here where I can dial in just how strong I want that effect to be. And if I like that look, I can save it as a preset and I can use it over and over again.
You can add your own filters on top of it.
You can add your own filters, you can change it. If we go over here and look in the effects tab, you can see everything that made that up, and I can fine tune and adjust those or throw things out that I might not like. Yeah. Now, as I mentioned back here, there's also the My Style tab. What My Style does is it learns from your effects. So it looks at all the photos that you've added effects to over the years, and it learns how to imitate your style. So that way you can develop your own style that's different from the ON1 style. So let's just take a look in here. These will be a little different. These are just the way I would have edited the photo. So I can mouse over these and I can look at some different options in here, and maybe I'll pick a different one of my looks instead. Ooh, I kind of like that one. Let's go for that one.
That looks awesome.
Yeah. And we'll dial it back just a skosh. That's a scientific term, skosh.
Skosh.
There we go. All right, let's take a look at the before and after here. I'm just going to hit the tab key and hide some of that stuff out of the way. There's before and after, just like that. And how many brushes did I have to use?
0.
How many layers did I have to use?
0.
Did I have to do anything else? No.
One click, I think.
It was pretty much, I turned Brilliance on, I wiggled a couple sliders to my taste, I went to Style Advisor and picked one that I liked. That's how easy it is to get a great looking photo with Photo RAW 2024.
That's awesome, Dano.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it just as getting a starting point.
Yeah.
Just getting into there, put a look on there and go on with the edit. I love it.
Yep. And we all struggle with that, getting it to look great out of the camera. And this makes it so much easier. It's almost like it's like the JPEG, almost, if you will, but on a raw photo. So yeah. Well, what else you got for us?
Yeah, Dano. So, one of the new features inside of ON1 Photo RAW that I've been really digging is the new and improved layers pane inside of ON1 Photo RAW. In college, I've really dealt with a whole lot of sort of multimedia stuff, dealing with graphics, animations, really just getting a bit creative with my photography. And so inside of Photo RAW, having the ability to do those things with the sort of improved layers pane is really, really helpful. Yeah. And I really enjoy just bringing life into images in a sort of creative way with graphics, text, things like that. So let me jump in, I'll show you that real quick. So in Photo RAW 2024 here, let's grab this image and we'll get a bit creative with the look of it by bringing on some text. We'll copy and paste a quick graphic from the internet, add in a texture, and really just bring some new life into this photo and some style into it. And with the new and improved layers pane, it's incredibly easy to do. So we'll go into the edit module here, and we'll just take a look at this new and improved layers pane right out of the gate. One of my favorite new enhancements is that you can actually resize the layers pane to fit your workflow. So if you're working on a bunch of different layers here, you can resize this to fit those different layers. And that's incredibly helpful because with individual layers now, you can actually view the modifiers that you've applied to those individual layers there. So for example, if I add in a filter to this scene, let's just say a borders filter, and I'm back in develop, maybe modifying contrast, and I want to go immediately back into that borders filter, I can just roll open this little arrow here and I can view all of the different modifiers that were applied to that image. So if we open up effects here, we have that borders applied to it. And if I want to access those different modifiers immediately, I can just double click and it will take me into that filter or the develop tab, you name it, and then I can instantly readjust if I need to. But I like that sort of simple white border, so we'll just leave that as it is. But what I'm thinking with this image is that I want to bring in maybe a logo or an icon, a quick graphic, just to, again, give it a little bit more style. So I've navigated to the Volkswagen icon just on Wikipedia. I'm just going to copy this image here. And all I'm going to do to bring this in is just paste that into the scene there. Now you can do this with selected pixels from Photoshop. You can copy and paste from your computer's navigator or desktop. You name it, but I've just found that icon on the internet and really easy, just copied it and pasted it into the scene. So let me just resize this here, make it a bit smaller there, and I'll also sort of give it a little bit of depth there by placing it over the border. So we've copy and pasted our little icon there, really easy to do. And another great feature inside of the new and improved layers pane is that you can use text as its own separate layer. So to do that, all we have to do is just click on this little T icon there. I'm just going to resize that layers pane a bit. I'll click on that T icon there, and I have my own text box that I can then modify. So let me just type in here, van life. I'll get a bit creative with the size. Make it a bit larger there. And we'll resize this text box to sort of fit the scene. And then I'll just drag this down, maybe right there. I might have to move that icon, but we'll drag that text down there, and then we'll move that icon really quickly. Oops. Maybe resize it just a hair. Perfect. So in sort of, just a few clicks there, we've added in text, we've added in an icon, and we've got a creative border in the scene there. Well, we've sort of built our quote-unquote composite, or graphic if you will, so now all we have to do is style it a bit. Well, to style it, I'm just going to create a new stamp layer here. And what that's going to do is that's going to duplicate these 3 layers and then merge them together into one complete layer. So let me just name this complete. And we have our whole complete layer here with everything sort of merged together. So let's style this a bit. And I was thinking a great style on this would be a nice sort of antique looking style with some maybe folded paper texture. Well, all we have to do to create that is we'll add a filter, we'll add textures. I'm just going to go into this paper category here. And one of my favorites is this folded paper 8. And I typically use this darker mode. And let's just bring up that opacity to 100. And so now if I zoom in here, I have this nice sort of folded paper texture on my scene, and it's really just giving the image a bit more of a creative look. Well, one last thing we can add onto the scene just to enhance that sort of creativity within the scene is we'll add one last filter, and we'll add the antique filter. And we can scroll through these different antique looks and just find one that looks really nice within the scene. And I'm thinking that Istanbul looks really good there. So if I turn this off and on, really doing a great job just bringing in that vintage look into the scene. And then let me just grab this layer here. Let me reset these different borders. Oops, we'll take off the effect there. And so we'll check out the before and then the after.
Wow, that's a lot of fun. I like that.
Yeah, really easy to do. Just bring in some text, quick icon from the internet, and you got yourself a nice little vintage advertisement, if
That'd
you
be
will.
fun. That's a good social media post too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right, that was really cool. Now let's kind of switch gears a little bit. We've spent a lot of time in edit. Let's go and talk about browse a little. We've made a lot of improvements there too. You saw some of the performance improvements, but there's also some functional improvements that we've made as well. One of the ones that I think you're going to really enjoy is the improvements we made to cataloging. Cataloging allows you to keep track of the contents of a folder. Most of us keep all of our photos in one place or a couple places. We'll make a catalog of those. That means it finds any new photos, picks up any updates. If you remove any photos, they get pruned out. So what you view in Browse is always up to date. Let me show you some of the changes we made. So over here in my catalog folders, you can see I've got a folder at the top. I'm just going to right click and I'm going to go to my catalog properties. In catalog properties, we have a lot more control over how the cataloging process takes place. First off, I can control the preview size, basically how big of a preview it stores on disk. Preview makes it faster to browse. So I can have either the embedded preview from a RAW photo or a smaller preview or a standard size fit screen preview. I can also control how frequently it's going to scan that folder. I can have it scan once on launch or every 15 minutes, or I can make it a manual process. So if you like it the way Lightroom works or it doesn't scan unless you tell it to scan, you can always set it to manual and have it scan manually. And you can also have control over Keyword AI. Keyword AI is what's going to look at every photo as it gets cataloged and extract keywords and information about the photo automatically. And of course, you can publish it to Cloud Sync as well. So by controlling these on a catalog folder by catalog folder basis, you can really improve your cataloging performance. So for example, if you had a NAS drive, a big giant network drive that has hundreds of thousands of photos on it, for that one, you might want to use the embedded option and only scan once. That way it's not using a lot of resources to constantly keep track of that large one. But if you have a smaller SSD where you keep the photos you're actively working on, then you might want to use these kind of settings instead to give you the fastest performance when it comes to browsing. And we've also added a cool new little cataloging progress indicator down here. This tells you what's happening with cataloging. It'll tell you if it's scanning. Mine's actually done scanning. It tells me that it is updating the previews on a couple photos and it's still doing some keyword AI work in the background.
That's awesome.
On
I
some
didn't even know
photos
about
as
that, Daniel. That's awesome.
It's really cool to see that. And there's also this little turbo button. You can press that button and that lets it use more of your CPU so that it can actually get the work done faster. So if you're going away, you're gonna have a cup of coffee, hit that turbo button and it'll catalog even faster for you.
That is awesome.
Yeah, that's just one of the changes we made in Browse. Let's talk about a couple others. Another one that I really like is some improvements to search. You notice that search, rather than being a pane over here on the left, is now in a bar across the top, the search bar. And let me show you how it works. Let's say I want to find just the 5-star photos in this folder. Well, I can just turn on the Attributes tab up here, and I just click on 5 stars. Now it filters it down to just the 5-star photos. Let's say I want to find the 5-star photos of just women. Well, I can turn on the Faces tab, and I can just come to the gender section and I can choose female. Nice. And boom, it automatically narrowed it down to just my 5-star pictures of women, just like that. And if I like that search, I can save it and use it over and over again or make it a smart album. Let me show you some of the other options that are in here. There's also the ability to search simply by text or any of the advanced metadata options that you've had in the past. You can search by any of the fields, all the EXIF metadata, all the IPTC metadata, date, time, season, orientation, you name it. Everything you want, any combination you want. Let me just show you something like a simple word search. So I'm gonna turn this off so we have nothing selected. And at any time, you can always hit Command F or Control F on your keyboard and it'll bring up that simple word search. And I'm just gonna do, let's do monkey. Do we have any monkeys? Yep.
Nice.
There we go. Hey, there's a monkey. Do you know what? I didn't add keyword monkey to that at all. Keyword AI did it for me. So if we look over here, there's some improvements in keyword AI. It now finds even more keywords per photo because it scans not just the subject of the photo, but the other background contents of a photo. So it's going to find things like skies and mountains and waterfalls, a lot of things that are very important to landscape photographers. It will find. It also finds related keywords. So if we look at this one, it found terrestrial animal, but it also found that it's an organism, that it's an old world monkey, and that monkey happens to be a mammal, and it's carnivorous. So it added all those automatically just because it saw that it was a monkey. It knew all of those additional keywords to add. Now let's see, I think of one other cool thing that I wanted to show you guys here in Browse, and that is the breadcrumbs. You may have noticed at the top when we put those that search bar up there, you don't see the breadcrumbs anymore. Well, the breadcrumbs are still there. They're located down at the bottom now, and there's a good reason for that. It is now available both inside of Browse, but also inside of Edit. So I'm just going to bring up my film strip here while we look at this monkey. You'll notice it still has a back button. Tells me my current location, the name of the folder that I'm in. It tells me that I'm on the 36th of 723 photos that are in that folder. But there's a little arrow right here. And when I click on this arrow, watch what it does. At the top, I see the full folder path, so I can navigate backwards through my folder tree, just like I would in a normal breadcrumbs bar. But we have the addition of now being able to jump to my favorites, to be able to go to my albums, to go to recent folders and even recent photos, all right here. And the cool thing is I can do that, like I said, here inside of Edit, but I can also do it, or here inside of Browse, I can do the same thing in Edit. So watch, let's say I took this photo into Edit, I was working on it, and I decide, well, I'm done with this. Rather than having to go back to Browse to go to a different location, I can simply click right down here and go to another spot. Let's say I want to go to an album that I've been using, right there, and boom, it takes me right to that album, picks the first photo in the folder, and I'm ready to continue my work.
Without going into Browse.
Without having to go back to Browse for it. On the flip side, there's another thing. This is kind of a tag team between Browse and Edit. I'm just going to jump back to Browse here. You could apply Brilliance AI to your photos right here inside of Browse now. So if I scroll up here, I'm going to close my metadata pane. You notice there's a new Brilliance AI pane. From here, I can select a group of photos and I can actually apply Brilliance AI to all of them automatically. It's a great way to prepare your photos from a shoot you were just at. You can see how it's gone through and it's done it to all of them right off the bat.
That looks
it's a
awesome.
great way to prep those photos without having to go through and edit each one by one at a time. And it does the right thing on a photo by photo basis. It's not like it's copying the settings from one and pasting it to the others. It's looking at each photo individually, doing the right tone and color adjustments, the right local adjustments. If it has lots of noise, it's going to automatically add no noise to remove noise. If it has portrait faces, it's going to automatically add portrait to retouch them if you want to. It's all controllable right here in this Brilliance AI pane.
Just from that little menu, just on.
Yep,
just turn it on.
Just turn it on.
That's awesome.
Boom, suddenly your photos look a heck of a lot better, just like that.
Is super awesome, Dan.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the other big things is that we now have Photo RAW Max. You now have the ability to access Photo RAW as a plugin. So, Dylan, why don't you give us the lowdown?
Of course. Yeah, so inside of Lightroom here, and this could be Photoshop, this could be Capture One, Apple Photos, Affinity, you name it. But the great thing about ON1 Photo RAW Max is that you can instantly access your favorite ON1 editing tools from any of these other editors. And with Max, you don't actually have to toggle through different plugins. You can access all of your favorite modules and modifiers all within that one single application. So what we're going to do here with this image is we're just going to go in and just, inside of Lightroom, we'll just quickly auto-develop the basic tone and color. So nothing too crazy. We hit the backslash key on our keyboard, just a basic adjustment in the scene. But now let's say we want to get a bit more creative with the look. We want to add in some detail, maybe some texture, borders, you name it. Easy way to do that is with ON1 Photo RAW Max. So we're just going to go to File, we'll go to Plugin Extras, and we're going to choose down here at the bottom any of these ON1 Photo RAW 2024 options here. Now I'm going to use Effects so that I take this right into the Effects tab where I can start modifying filters. And with that, we have this Export options here. In what to edit, this is going to determine whether we edit an image with those Lightroom settings applied to it, or we edit a copy of that original image with nothing applied. Well, we did auto-develop it, so let's leave that as is so that we're modifying those Lightroom settings as well. But the biggest thing we want to do is go down to this Copy Options section, and we're going to actually enable this Smart Photo PSD option. That will allow us to instantly go back and readjust the look of that scene if we need to. So let's just choose OK there. This is going to take this image with those Lightroom settings applied, open it right up inside of ON1 Photo RAW Max. And to quickly modify this with filters, I'm just going to use Super Select AI. It allows me to hover around the scene and it will auto-detect different subjects and regions. I'm just going to grab the building here. Let me just bring in a bit of detail with dynamic contrast. It's quite surreal there, but I want you to be able to see it through the presentation, and so you can always readjust or remodify that opacity if you need to. Last thing, let's just grab the sky here and let's bring on maybe a darker glow just to bring in a little bit more life into that sky scene. And let's go in, add maybe 2 more filters here, just really quick. We'll add a vignette to darken up those corners. And then let's add maybe a stylistic color grading look with our LUTs filter. LUTs are one of my favorite filters inside of Photo RAW. All I have to do is just head into a category. There's some really awesome categories in here, and you can also import your own. And let's just maybe try a black and white. I'm really enjoying this sort of just simple, elegant black and white look there. So when we're done, all we have to do to go back into Lightroom is just select this check mark there. That will apply those settings to that image and take me back into Lightroom with that image there. So I have my original, or the original with the Lightroom settings applied, and then I have my modified image from ON1 Photo RAW Max. And if we need to, we can immediately go back and readjust those settings by just going back to the plugin extras. We'll click on ON1 Effects, and this time we're just gonna open the original. And you can see within the Effects tab, we have all of those filters that we've modified right there. I think it's looking okay, so I'm just gonna actually go back into Lightroom. We won't actually even modify it, but if you need to, really easy to readjust there. Now real quick, just let me show you how you can actually batch process using ON1 Photo RAW Max as well. So I'm just going to actually delete this photo here, and I'm gonna grab this group of 3 images. We're gonna go to File, Plugin Extras, and we're gonna go to ON1 Effects. Now in the export options, we have those same modifiers, edit a copy with Lightroom settings, edit a copy, but now we have our batch options here that we can use to batch process that group of images. So whether you want to pause on the first photo and then apply that setting to the rest of the images, or you want to pause on all photos and adjust them individually, you can modify that there. So really easy to do, really easy to just batch process images or even just modify one single image inside of Lightroom. So that was Lightroom. Let me just show you real quick how to do it inside of Photoshop. Very easy to do, and you can get some really cool looks inside of Photo RAW Max with it. So inside of Photoshop here, let's just open up a file. Let me go down here, I'll open up this image. We'll just choose open there. I'm not actually gonna do anything inside of the camera raw option here. We'll just reset to default, and we'll just open up as is. First thing I'm gonna do is just modify the crop a little bit, just to give it a sort of a tighter composition there. I'll hit enter there, and we have that crop. Now let's take this into ON1 Photo RAW Max, but before we do that, I'm actually gonna convert this to a smart object. And when you have a smart object, you can actually create a smart filter, which allows you to immediately go back and readjust those settings on that image if you need to. So let's just go to File, we'll go to Automate, and let's just start actually inside of ON1 Develop. So it's open the image inside of Develop. Let's just use Brilliance AI here to set the initial look, and then we can style it. So it's looking good inside of Brilliance AI. It's a little bit too bright there, so we'll just pull that back a hair, down to around 74 or so. But with the backslash key on the keyboard, it's looking really awesome. Let's go to the Effects tab now. We'll add a couple stylish filters, and to do that, I'm just gonna go in and use Super Select AI to grab the animal there. We'll add in some detail, pull that back just a little bit, and then I think I just might add in a vignette. Boom. Nothing too crazy. Let's just hit the backslash key on our keyboard. It's a nice, subtle look. But I think maybe one last thing. I don't know, Dano, it's looking just a little bit too warm. Maybe a little bit cooler there, just a hair. I think so. Just gonna choose that check mark there. That's going to take us back into Photoshop. And you can see we have that layer there, and we now have a smart filter underneath it with those ON1 Develop settings there. Well, the great thing about having a smart filter on the image is that you can actually just double click this and immediately go back into Photo RAW and readjust and remodify if you need to. And that's how you use ON1 Photo RAW Max through your other favorite editors to instantly access all of those ON1 modifiers, editing tools, you name it.
There you go. It's ON1 everywhere.
Yes.
Wherever you work,
Yeah.
you can get your access to ON1. And that's really the truth. I mean, I've seen photographers' workflows. Nobody's workflow is the same, right?
No,
Everybody does it a little bit differently. This way you can take advantage of the great technologies that ON1 makes no matter where you work.
Totally.
All right. Now, we've talked about a ton of cool new stuff in ON1 Photo RAW 2024. There's a couple more things that we don't have time to show you in depth, but let me just talk about them real quick. So the first one is we've added a ton of brand new effects. So every year we kind of look at what's the most popular trending looks on social media and in media, and we go out and we kind of make our own versions of those. So there are 7 new categories, 100 new presets in these categories over here on the right that you guys are going to have a whole lot of fun with. I really like the light and airy ones. It's a very popular look, and also the fall harvest for this time of year is a really good one.
I just love the name Drone Zone.
The Drone Zone. I know.
I love that.
Sounds like a bad B movie, doesn't it?
It does, right?
Also, you love your camera profiles. We build camera profiles for all the cameras that we support, but we don't necessarily get every single one that every camera has. You can now get all of the ones that Adobe creates. If you have an Adobe ACR-based product installed, we can automatically find the Adobe profiles, and you can use those DCP profiles right inside of Develop as well. And one more note, we talked a lot about the keyword AI advancements and the search advancements. When it comes to metadata, we can now automatically embed those AI keywords into your XMP sidecar files, or if you're working with JPEGs or other non-RAW formats, we can automatically embed the metadata right into them. So that way you have a two-way metadata exchange between Photo RAW and whatever other apps you happen to work with.
That is awesome.
Lots of cool stuff coming. There's also a bunch of brand new cameras that are added and a bunch of new lens profiles. For you Panasonic users who have been sitting on the edge of your seat, we now have great Tier 1 Panasonic support. So you can use all the different options on your Panasonic cameras. And the system requirements stay pretty close to what they were last year. The only thing that's really changed is Mac OS 10.15 is a little too old, is no longer supported, and you want to make sure you have a good video card. You probably want to have at least 4 gigabytes of VRAM to get the best performance, especially on these new AI models that can take up a lot of work in the GPU. All right, it is available today, so you can go out, you can download a 30-day trial or purchase your new version or your upgrade today. All right, thank you guys for watching. We're really excited to get 2024 in you guys' hands and see how much you love it. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, everyone. Have fun editing.